All right, good morning, everyone. This is Saturday, March 20th, 2021. Welcome to Chapter 10's online information meeting on upcoming events and legislative matters. Just to reiterate, this is not a Chapter 10 business meeting and will not be voting on any issues or discussing any proposals. This meeting is to disseminate information to all of our Chapter 10 members. And again, please mute your microphone. We won't take any questions or allow comments until the very end of the meeting. So if you have questions as we're moving along, please write down your questions and we will address them at the very end. This meeting will be led by your fearless leader, DAV Chapter 10 Commander Tom Wendell, and his trusty sidekick, me, Adjutant Shane Learman. So before we get started and go through the agenda, Commander Wendell, do you have any opening comments you would like to make this morning?
Yes, I do, Shane, and thank you very much. And I want to welcome everybody to this Chapter 10 information meeting. I'm very happy to see so many people join us online on this beautiful Saturday morning. And we look forward to providing you with some information today that may help you in the future, looking at future things with Chapter 10 as to what's coming up, and hopefully give you some additional information in reference to COVID-19 and legislative issues. So once again, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And back to you, Shane.
All right. Thank you, Commander Wendell, and we'll go ahead and get the show underway. Just a brief review of the agenda, the items we plan on talking and sharing with you this morning. We're going to be talking about the chapter elections coming up in April, chapter resolutions, the DAV Department of Virginia Convention, the DAV National Convention, a little legislative update, and the VA Medical Center in Washington, D.C.'s COVID vaccine update as well. So the first thing we're going to cover is chapter elections in April. Now, I know we haven't been meeting in person. However, we're going to need to, and we're going to be discussing that very soon for the upcoming elections in April. Chapter 10's Constitution and Bylaws, or C&B, require that chapter elections be held annually in April with a nominating committee elected at the March meeting. However, since we are not meeting this month in March, Commander Wendell will appoint a nominating committee unless there are any objections. So at this point, Commander Wendell, I would ask for you to appoint the nominating committee for the upcoming elections in April.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. And in reference to the nominating committee, I'm nominating Shane Learman, Anna Lutz, and Jim Anders, unless there's any objections. Hearing no objections, then we will move forward with those three people being our nominating committee. Back to you, Shane.
Thank you, Commander. Just to clarify, since this is a little bit different, we did seek out the guidance and assistance of the DAV Department of Virginia Judge Advocate Stephen Combs in reference to this issue, and this was his proposal on us to address the nominating committee for the upcoming election. So we did seek out guidance from the department and received it, and we're following their opinions. We will be holding the elections at the April meeting, and the elections will proceed as usual per Chapter 10's Constitution and Bylaws. The positions that will be up for election in April that we will be voting on will be the positions of Commander, Senior Vice Commander, First Junior Vice Commander, Second Junior Vice Commander, Treasurer, Chaplain, Department Executive Committeeman, and alternate Department Executive Committeeman. If the current COVID-19 restrictions have not changed and we're not able to meet at the American Legion Post in Fairfax, where we have been meeting. We will plan to meet outdoors if the weather holds, and we will announce that location as early as possible at the beginning of April. To learn more about the duties of each of the positions that's being elected that we just described, please review Chapter 10's Constitution and Bylaws, which can be found on Chapter 10's website, and there's the link to our website. We're going to go ahead now and cover resolutions, and I will turn this over to Commander Wendell to lead us through resolutions. Commander Wendell.
Thank you, Shane. And as we talk about resolutions, go ahead and go to the next slide, Shane. DAV is a resolution-based organization, which means we can only support or oppose legislation that is part of our legislative agenda. This starts with resolutions from each chapter. Now, just so some of you have an understanding of that, there's many times that our legislative staff, they will be up on the Hill, they'll get a call from a congressman or senator's office about a bill, but since DAV doesn't have a resolution on that specific bill or one similar to it, DAV cannot oppose or support. So even if it's a great bill that we think would be great for service-connected disabled veterans, we can't support that because we don't have a resolution. So it's very important for us as an organization to be presenting resolutions to go before our chapters and go before our departments, and then ultimately the National Convention. As you all know, there's a resolution that Chapter 10 did in reference to the Virginia property tax on one vehicle for 100% service-connected veterans. That started with a resolution from Chapter 10, worked its way through the department, finally worked its way up through the state legislature, and finally got passed into law. So these things work. The grassroots efforts is very important. And with this year's department convention, a lot of chapters not meeting, there's a lot of chapters that may not be presenting resolutions so it's very important for Chapter 10 to step up and do our duty. So next slide. So resolutions approved by Chapter 10 will then go to the DAV, Department of Virginia, for adoption. Those adopted will go to the National Convention for consideration. DAV Chapter 10 has submitted resolutions for the past several years, and many have been adopted by the department and by National Convention. In 2019, Chapter 10 submitted 20 resolutions, and almost all were adopted at the National Convention. So when the resolutions adopted at the National Convention, just so you're aware, that becomes part of DAV's legislative agenda for the upcoming year. And if you've never gone on to DAV's website and you looked at our resolutions, there's quite a few resolutions in there. So if you're thinking about writing one or you have ideas, go into that resolutions book online, look at those resolutions and make sure we don't already have one that's in reference to what you're talking about. But it's very important that, these legislative agendas that we end up adopting through these resolutions, we try and get congressmen and senators to propose a bill in reference to those. So we hope to see some ideas coming from Chapter 10 this year. Next slide, Shane. Per our Constitution and bylaws, the Chapter Executive Committee is also the Chapter Resolution Committee. The Resolution Committee will discuss and vote on resolutions to bring to the chapter at either the April or May meeting. Next one. To see Chapter 10's resolutions from 2019, visit our website, and to view DAV's national resolutions, visit dav.org. We will have all the links in the upcoming After Action newsletter. Thank you very much, Shane. Anything else you have on resolutions?
Yeah, just real quick, and great information, Commander. Thanks for putting all of this out. And for those of you who do not know, I am on DAV's national legislative team at our headquarters in Washington, D.C. And just to talk a little bit more about some of the points Tom was making, there are often great pieces of legislation or bills that are being introduced, but as he noted, if we don't have something specific, we can't always support those very specific bills that are coming up. That's why having lots of resolutions submitted broadens the approach that that DAV as a national organization can have. Right now, we have around 191 resolutions that were adopted at the last national convention, covering a variety of areas from benefits to claims to healthcare to POW, MIA to transportation, a variety of issues that are out there, and volunteers as well. So if you have an idea, think through it. I'm going to be sending out the links in the next day or two along with our After Action. But if you have an idea, reach out to us, myself or Tom, and we can help you try to formulate that idea if there already is not a resolution, and we can help you try to formulate that into a resolution. But this process is very, very important because we want to be able to support or oppose legislation however it may falls that's out there and be able to speak out and speak out on it and help push those efforts. But again, we need resolutions, which is a very critical part of this entire process. So we're going to go ahead and move on to next. Now, before we get too far into this, I just want to recognize we do have a few special guests with us this morning. We have DAV's National Executive Director at Washington headquarters, Randy Reese, with us, as well as DAV Department of Virginia Senior Vice Commander Cynthia Bailey with us as well. And if either of you have additional information you want to provide, just let us know as we're going through, and we'll make sure we get to you as quickly as possible. So moving on to the DAV Department of Virginia Convention that is scheduled for June 20th, the 17th through the 20th. The convention generally is a Tuesday/Wednesday through Sunday affair. However, with COVID-19 this year, things have changed a lot. Now, it still is going to be held at the Holiday Inn Tanglewood in Roanoke, Virginia, but it will be abbreviated. Everything's going to start on Thursday, and there will not be a dinner or a banquet on Saturday evening as historically has been held. It's very important that Chapter 10 has a presence. I said it twice because I wrote it twice and we didn't pick up on it. Has a presence at the DEC meeting, or the Department Executive Committee meetings, and the department conventions. Why is that important? Because the DEC meetings, the resolutions, and the election of department officers require votes. On a variety of these issues, we need to make sure Chapter 10's voice is being heard at the DEC meetings, as well as the resolutions that will be voted on at the department convention. So those resolutions approved by Chapter 10 will go to the department convention, and we need to make sure we have Chapter 10 present and there so we can help provide any additional comments on any resolutions we submit, and more importantly, vote for them. And there is also going to be the election of department officers at the June convention, the 17th through the 20th in Roanoke. Now, Chapter 10 is the largest chapter in the Department of Virginia DAV. We have the largest amount of votes, which means Chapter 10 can help swing a vote in the election of department officers. So since we have so many members in such a large voting block, we need to make sure that Chapter 10 is prepared and ready and at the department convention so we can help get through the department agenda and make sure we're getting the right people through and voting on all of the important issues facing Chapter 10 and the Department of Virginia. Chapter 10's DEC is Commander Tom Wendell, and the alternate DEC is Adjutant Shane Learman. That's where it stands right now. However, as we just discussed, we will be voting on those positions at the April elections. So whoever that will be going forward, at least one needs to attend for voting at the DEC meetings on resolutions and the department elections. For more specific information on the Department of Virginia DAV Convention, please visit the department's website, and there it is up there on the screen, all nice and bright and shiny for you. Before we go any further, since we have the department Senior Vice Commander Cynthia Bailey with us, Cynthia, did we miss anything in reference to the upcoming department convention?
No, you did not. You covered everything. It will be abbreviated as you stated, and it's very important that your DEC is there because there will be a lot of things that will need your vote. So, but you covered it all.
Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate you for being with us again this morning. And that brings us up to DAV National Convention, and I will turn this back over to Chapter Commander Tom Wendell.
Well, thank you very much, Shane. And in reference to this year's DAV National Convention, of course, it's very important that DAV Chapter 10 have a presence at the National Convention as well, because there's always things that are happening, especially when you're looking at the resolutions that leave department convention and go to the National Convention. You know, if DAV Chapter 10 is needed to vote, then we need to make sure that we have a presence to cast our votes on these things. So next slide, Shane. So the scheduled location of the 2021 DAV and Auxiliary National Convention, the Grand Sierra Resort and Casino in Reno, Nevada, has canceled the July 24 through 27 event due to the state's COVID-19 restrictions for events and meetings. So therefore, National had to make a major switch. So now the convention will now take place July 31st through August 3rd. The Day of Inspiration will take place on Thursday, July 29th at the GW Marriott, Tampa Water Street, and the Tampa Marriott Water Street in Tampa, Florida. So major switch there. We're switching days and we're moving from Reno to Tampa. So as you can see, the address of the new location and the rates for single and double is $129. The phone number is there. And for more information for the new dates and place of the National Convention, you can go on to DAV's website at dav.org, and you go under events and you would be able to see the upcoming information on the National Convention. So next one, Shane. All right, so Shane, anything additional you'd like to mention in reference to the National Convention?
Commander Wendell, I got nothing.
Okay. Well, then I will turn over legislative issues to you.
I know it's hard to believe I actually had nothing additional to say, but sometimes it actually happens. So we're going to go ahead and jump to some of the legislative updates that are currently going on as part of DAV's Operation Keep the Promise and our Commander's Action Network. And we'll be providing links for all of that in the upcoming After Action newsletter. So what's been going on so far? Well, just to cover a few key issues. On March 3rd, DAV National Commander Stephen Whitehead testified before a joint session of the Senate and House Veterans Affairs Committee. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to highly suggest that you watch it. A whole variety of issues were covered at that hearing that DAV was able to voice our concerns on, our issues, and the stance of our national membership. Again, I'll provide a link for that in the After Action so everybody has a chance to see that. But you can also go to dav.org to see the link of that video as well. So this is a great opportunity provided to us annually that DAV gets to voice our legislative agenda and concerns within VA for the upcoming year in front of both the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. So it's a very great event in the fact that we get to vocally bring our issues to the table before Congress. On March 10th, DAV testified before the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and the hearing was on military toxic exposures, the human consequences of war. That again was another good hearing. There was great information provided from two physicians, specifically on burn pit exposure, and there was a veteran who testified at the hearing who unfortunately had a bilateral lung transplant twice. And they tied it all the way back to his exposures to burn pits when he was stationed in Iraq. So great stuff, great testimony at those hearings. And there was also great testimony from the physician that talked about hypertension being related to Agent Orange exposure. So it was a great hearing. We'll provide a link for that. But toxic exposures is going to be a big critical issue going forward this year and for Congress in the 117th Congress. But we also have several other issues and agendas DAV is pushing for, such as just this week, March 18th, DAV testified before the House Veterans Affairs Committee, Subcommittee on Health, on a hearing entitled Beyond Deborah Sampson, Improving Healthcare for America's Women Veterans in the 117th Congress. So, as many of you may know, last Congress, a majority of the Deborah Sampson Act was passed in the omnibus bill at the end of the year. So while they're implementing so many of those great changes for women veterans, what they're looking at now is what can they do beyond implementing the Deborah Sampson Act? What are other issues Congress needs to be aware of that women veterans are facing? And this was a great opportunity for DAV. If you have not seen it, that was the debut of a Chapter 10 member, Ashley Burns, who is the Deputy Communications Director. She provided testimony for the first time and absolutely knocked it out of the park for DAV and women veterans. So I'll provide a link to that hearing as well. And coming up next week, just to give you a little bit more info, on March 23rd, Tuesday, DAV will testify before the House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee on Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs on VA compensation and pension exams during the COVID-19 pandemic, a path forward. As many of you that have had claims pending through this time know that VA shut down a lot of, actually completely shut down in-person examinations for several months and then reopened them just for the VA contract examiners late last year. So this is going to look at that entire process, the backlog of exams, and its impact on the backlog of claims. We will be testifying at that on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'll try to provide a link for that as well, so you can see exactly what DAV's concerns are going forward with the potential backlog of claims and exams getting out of hand. So that brings us to our next section, COVID-19 vaccinations and updates, and I'll turn it back over to Commander Wendell.
Well, thank you, Shane. And before we jump into the COVID-19, I would like to state in reference to the toxic exposure testimony, that was our own Shane Learman that testified, and he did a great job on behalf of DAV and Chapter 10. So thank you very much for that, Shane.
You're making me blush.
Now,
Thank you.
Now, in reference to COVID-19 updates, next slide, Shane. The Washington, D.C. VA Veterans Affairs VA Medical Center is currently offering COVID-19 vaccinations by appointment only to enrolled veterans who are residing in the VA Community Living Center, age 65 or older, homeless or residing in the group housing setting, between 50 and 65 with chronic diseases. For more information on that, you can go to their website and check out the link in reference to COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, I've had some people that I know, some colleagues that have actually registered and they've gotten their call. They actually will be going in next week to get their COVID-19 vaccine, and they were told that they were going to be utilizing the Johnson & Johnson one shot when they go in. Now, I can't promise that for everybody, but that's what these specific people are getting. But, you know, it does help to go on to the VA's website and register and for the vaccine so that they can contact you once your appointment is up. Now, as you all know, there's other ways of doing this. You know, you can go through your own county, your own city, and register your own state. So, you know, what I'd say is if you're trying to really want to get the vaccine, you know, register on as many forums as you can, and then that gives you a better shot of getting it quicker. So back to you, Shane.
Thank you, Commander Wendell. And what we're going to do is, I know it's kind of surprising. We got through our agenda in 30 minutes, even with Shane speaking. I know it's a little crazy, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions that anybody may have. But before we do, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let us all see each other. All right, there we go. And we're going to open it up to questions. But before we do, if Randy is still, there he is. Randy, did you have anything additional, any additional information you would like to impart to everyone this morning?
I don't in regards to local activities, but I would like to tell you that, you know, it's been a challenging year for everybody. And if you look across the country, DAV has responded magnificently. Events like this, where you bring together the local community to talk about what's happening, how to support each other and lift each other up, the commander chats and talks. As you see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're not there yet. So safety is a mandate, but certainly thank you all for being engaged and making sure your fellow veterans are taken care of. So thanks, Shane. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Randy.
So we're going to go ahead and open it up if anybody has any questions over any of the topics that we covered this morning or any other just general questions. And I'm going to let Tom answer every single one of them.
Yeah, sure. Not a problem, Shane.
So we'll go open it up now. If everybody wants to talk, a little hard if everybody's turning off their mic and joining in. So just be patient with us. But anybody got any questions right from the hip?
Wow, quiet group this morning.
Well, I might have one.
Good.
Ron. Well, I was interested to know if there was going to be a discussion in regard to the contaminated water at Camp Lejeune in the upcoming DAV convention. I mean, I know that's probably going to be a hard one to get over, because if anybody ended up paying anything for that, it's going to break the bank. But
well, Ron, you definitely opened a subject that we're not lacking for information, and Shane's desire to want to talk about that issue specifically. Now, the contaminated water at Camp Lejeune is a part of DAV's toxic exposures legislative agenda and priority for the upcoming year. We do have resolutions, legislative resolutions that have been adopted in the past specific to Camp Lejeune. Now, the two issues that our resolutions speak to the water contamination at Camp Lejeune is, one is when they put in the presumptive service connection for diseases related to that exposure. That was done by the VA by regulation. They made a requirement of 30 days of aggregate exposure to water at Camp Lejeune, which means you had to have been there at least 30 days sometime throughout your career. We have a resolution to remove that 30-day requirement. And the reason we believe it needs to be removed is there is no existing science that says you must have been exposed 30 days in order to develop one of these diseases. There isn't any. VA even acknowledges it in their language when they introduced that final rule in the Federal Register, that there is no scientific evidence that says you must have been exposed for 30 days. We believe that based on the scientific evidence used at the time, there's sufficient evidence to show 1 day of exposure is equivalent to exposure over a long period of time. So that is one of the issues we're on, that DAV has a resolution on that we want to change, that we don't agree with. It's overly limiting to veterans, and it's not based on science, which we have an issue with. Two, if you take a look at the resolutions that we have, in 2012, there was a law passed called the Camp Lejeune Healthcare Act of 2012. And that had 15 different diseases on there that were recognized by VA for healthcare purposes for veterans and their family members. When the VA instituted their rules for presumptive service connection, or diseases they say are automatically related to that, they'll grant service connection for, there's only 7 of them or 8 of them. So what happened to the others? So we have a resolution looking to expand the list of presumptive diseases for Camp Lejeune water contamination, and we're also asking for additional studies. So we still are talking about those issues, Ron, and actually yesterday, I'll tip my hand, I had a phone call with a staffer from Senator Thom Tillis's office. Senator Thom Tillis is a senator out of North Carolina, and we talked about several things, but we talked about some upcoming plans and changes to the way that the water contamination, healthcare, and presumptive issues are being handled. And we're looking at trying to get something done, hopefully over the next year or so, in reference to just Camp Lejeune water contamination. Yeah, I told you I was ready to talk on that. I mean, give me a topic. Yeah, you put the nickel in, it's like a human jukebox. You got to wait till it plays up. And I think, oh, I'm sorry. I thought Shamla.
Well, I was going to say, great answer, Shane.
I think Shamla also had a question as well.
Oh, if we do have resolutions, do we send it to both of you, like you and Tom, and do we have to write it up like to the fullest, right? Or do we just come up with a topic?
Well, the resolutions committee is who it needs to go to, so you can send it to either Tom or I, but if you send it to both of us at the same time, we'll make sure that the resolution committees will have a look at it. That's one. Two, I'll speak for Tom. Tom wants you to write that whole damn resolution on your own because he doesn't want to
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Listen
I'd rather know that now than like later.
Well, if you have an idea and you're struggling of putting it together in a resolution, absolutely we'll help you. We really will. Okay. We'll make sure that we get it crafted in a way that makes the most sense for everyone.
Okay.
But again, we're willing to help, and if it's only an idea that you have, we can take it from there. But yeah, we're definitely willing to help. And there's a great video on DAV's website on how to write resolutions. And the voice in that video, it's like listening to silk. That's how smooth it is.
Yeah, my 6-year-old was listening it with me. So she was like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
Smooth as butter, as they say. So yes, Shamla, did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Shane, this is Tom. In reference to resolutions, just so you all have an understanding, as Shane said earlier, last year, there's roughly 190 something resolutions that became part of DAV's legislative agenda. Well, all of those resolutions that still are pertinent today have to be voted on again this year or they go away. So if there's a resolution in there that you feel wholeheartedly about, make sure you're presenting that to the chapter so that we can make sure some of those resolutions don't fall to the wayside. So, that's an easy way to take a resolution and present it to the chapter, is to grab one that you feel very important to yourself and you want to move forward with it. Now, we got lucky last year, there was a lot of our resolutions that had bills that were passed on them. So there's a lot of them that we won't need to move forward with, but that just shows you how our grassroots efforts work. These resolutions are turning into laws. So I just want to thank you all for, taking the time to think about a resolution and moving it forward. So thank you.
And just to piggyback on that a little bit, as Tom noted earlier, think about this. A chapter member came to us with an idea about exemption of property tax on one vehicle per veteran who's 100% totally and permanently disabled. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. We started introducing that as a resolution. It took us 4 or 5 years. That's now law in the state of Virginia. Think about that. We affected law. We changed benefits better for the better of veterans in this state of Virginia or the Commonwealth. So that to me is an absolutely amazing feat when you think about what we were able to accomplish. Now, we didn't do it alone, obviously. The Department of Virginia adopted that resolution, and the Department of BPTL and the Joint Leadership Commission, several of those people were extremely active to get that in. So it took a big team effort, but it all started with Chapter 10. Now, I'm going to toot Tom's horn for a second. Tom introduced a resolution last year to add diseases to Agent Orange. Those were bladder cancer, hypothyroidism, and Parkinson's-ism or Parkinson's-like diseases. Anybody know what 3 diseases were just added into law in January for Agent Orange presumptive? Anybody? Those same 3 diseases, right? So that gave us the ability to support these things. That's why resolutions are so important. So Tom, great job. And I know that we're really needing a lot of resolutions. And to tip the hand a little bit, the Department of Virginia adjutant, Bob Cox, called me, I'm not sure everything's born together these days, recently, and he wanted to know if Chapter 10 was going to be submitting resolutions. And I said, more than likely we will. Why? And he goes, well, I don't think we're going to get resolutions from any other chapter. So we're really kind of relying on Chapter 10 to get resolutions in. So that's kind of a nice little call too, that not only the recent resolutions we passed, if we want to reintroduce those, but as Tom noted, take a look at the book. If there's things you feel passionate that we need to bring forward, absolutely. If you have new ideas, we need to get those in as well. I've just been working with Jesse on a resolution and an idea that he has that we'll be presenting to the resolution committee. And I know Shamala has ideas moving forward as well. So if you have an idea, we need to take this serious, because this really is the guiding force of our legislative team in DC. And we're changing lives because of our resolutions and grassroots efforts. So we should all be finding ways that we can improve upon it.
Shane, the 3 people on the nominating committee are myself, Anna, and who's the 3rd one?
You got to deal with me, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
He didn't seem too excited about that, did he? No, yeah. So yeah, Jim, I'll be reaching out with you and Anna here shortly, and we'll start getting some conversations going about the nominating committee. Anybody else have Anybody else have any questions about what we talked about this morning or anything else? Please feel free to fire them out.
Hey, this is Jesse. I had one quick comment on the COVID vaccination issue, and that is that I got both my vaccinations at the DC VA Medical Center, and overall they did a wonderful job. I mean, for the first vaccination, they needed a little work. on social distancing. But once you get back, you're in a private room with a real nurse to give you your vaccination. And the second shot, they had it all down pat, and they did a wonderful job. And I'd highly recommend it to fellow veterans.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for that information, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Shane, you want to share, obviously we're talking about resolutions and what it means to take care of the resolutions we have now or improve upon them, as well as new resolutions. But oftentimes benefits get attacked throughout the year. We do have a standing mandate in the Constitution and bylaws. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Thanks, Randy. So while we have resolutions to help support and oppose certain things, as part of the National Constitution and bylaws, there is a section in there that says DAV will oppose any reduction in existing benefits to veterans. So we don't always need to have a specific resolution, because if they're going to take away benefits, we're mandated to oppose those. And actually, that just happened last year. There was a new program that was being introduced that sounds great, awesome. Everybody was on board. However, there was one small piece that everybody, I think, was either missing or looking to ignore, and that was it was going to remove an existing program of benefits for veterans going into the future. DAV was the only we were the only veterans organization that spoke out against that piece of legislation. We testified against it. We wrote letters against it, and we let everybody know we opposed it. So we don't specifically need to have a resolution to oppose those types of reductions. That's built into our Constitution and bylaws, as Randy noted. So we do have the ability to fight against things when they're attacking existing benefits. Was that what you had in mind, Randy? I think he just said I'm all over that, like good looking on Shane. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Anything you're thinking about, interested in? Everything from resolutions to the upcoming elections to toxic exposures, Agent Orange. Anybody have any questions about any of those types of issues? Or burn pit exposure or PFAS exposure, any of the toxins. Trust me, I'm willing to talk about those forever if you give me a chance.
Yeah, we all know for sure that you would talk forever, Shane. But but one thing I would like to mention is the Commanders Chat and Talk on Sunday evenings at 7. There will be a link going out to that as well. And if you've never joined it, take an opportunity and join. It's just us having a conversation about things. And the last 3 weeks, we've been having new people join. We've had, upwards of 15 people on that call. So we greatly appreciate just everyone joining and just talking and getting to know each other, because, we don't always have that opportunity. You don't always have that opportunity right now with COVID to be getting out and talking to people. So it gives us an opportunity just to talk. We look at different subjects we throw out there. What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite book? So it's just a good time to get together and talk. So if you haven't joined us in the past, please do so. And if you've already joined us, I hope to see you again tomorrow night.
Yeah, and those events are purely social. We don't talk about DAV business or conduct business. It's our way of just getting everybody to interact, checking in. Is anybody having some great successes for the week they want to share with us, or any ongoing struggles that we can all help with and provide as much support as we can. And actually, 2 of our most recent attendees to those are on the call this morning, and that is Ron and John Berger. So guys, so glad to see you at the Sunday night meetings, and glad to see you both with us here this morning. That is awesome. Commander Chaplain, are you able to hear and can you see, or can you hear what's going on now, John Hoffman? John, if you'd like to make some comments, go right ahead. I know he's been experiencing some.
Sorry, Shane.
I know John was experiencing some audio issues earlier in the meeting, and I'm not sure he's quite got them resolved. So anybody else have anything they want to talk about or bring up this morning while we're talking on these issues?
Hi, Shane. This is Michael Bouchard. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Just wanted to do a quick introduction. I'm a life member out of California. I relocated with my family to the DC area late last year. I did put in to transfer my membership to Chapter 10, so I don't know what the status is, obviously, with COVID, but I just wanted to do a quick hello to everybody, and hopefully I'll meet you all soon, and look forward to getting involved. So I just wanted to say a quick hello to everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you
Well,
all.
thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we greatly appreciate that. And we will definitely be getting that transfer through, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And Michael, most of us are transplants from other parts of the world. So even though you're from California, we're not gonna hold that against you too much. I don't think.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I'm a broken down pig farmer from Nebraska, so if they let me in here, they're pretty accepting. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, no problem for me then.
All right. Before we wrap this up, I just want to go back through, and I'm just going to ask everybody if they have anything additional to talk about. So, Gary Salpini, our Senior Vice Commander. Gary, do you have anything you would like to talk about or bring up before we call it a day? Gary's good. And with us this morning is Beatrice Stevenson. For those of you who don't know, she's been a member of our auxiliary unit for an exceptionally long time. B, how many years have you been a member of the DAV Auxiliary?
He's muted.
That's all right. B, we'll go ahead and move on. But I want to say it's well over 50 years that B's been a member of the auxiliary.
Wow.
And she's been very actively engaged and still is, and still volunteers locally to help veterans and members of the auxiliary. So B, great to have you with us. Jim Anders, one of our officer of the day for Chapter 10. Jim, do you have anything you want to bring up or talk about?
No, nothing to add, Shane. Thanks.
Somebody told me something about a new bourbon that we're going to have to talk about tomorrow night, John, that I've never heard before, or Jim, that I've never tried or heard before. So I'll make sure I have that name ready for tomorrow night.
Yum, yum, good.
Now they're claiming it's just as good or better than Woodford Reserve. I'm not so sure about that, but we can talk about that tomorrow night. Real quick, even though Reverend Hoffman's having issues connecting and getting through, he just sent a message in the chat. He's available anytime to assist anybody struggling with COVID-19 related issues. Just to let you know, John is a master level therapist and counselor, as well as a reverend and ordained minister. I will make sure we put his link and contact information out. So if anybody wants to reach out and talk, John is always available. I'm going to go ahead and jump to our second junior vice commander, Shamala Capizzi. Shamala, do you have anything additional you want to bring up or talk about? You're good? How about our chapter benefits protection team leader, Jesse Bendahan? Jesse, you got anything you want to throw out there?
Just thank you to you and Tom for all the work you do for DAV. You know, you work more than full time for DAV, and then you volunteer and do this in extra time. And as my mom in the Bronx used to describe it, it's like a bus vacation. So going on a trip. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
And let's see, Ron, do you have anything additional you would like to talk about or bring up this morning?
Well, just the thought, I've been reading that they're going to tear down the VFW hall in Fairfax. Is that right? Where we've been meeting, when we were meeting?
Oh, the American Legion Post. Yes, they are. They have
Yeah.
a 3-year plan of tear down and rebuild. I'm not sure when that's all going to take place. I thought they had kind of put a stay on that for a little bit. So we are actively looking for a new permanent place to meet, at least during the construction and maybe beyond. So if anybody knows of any good locations in Fairfax or Arlington that we can that can host a big crowd, that's not also going to charge us money, to an absorbent amount of money to meet there every month. The Legion Post right now does not charge us anything to meet there every month, and we provide claims assistance to their members. Yes, Gary.
I was just going to say, if we have a Fairfax City resident that's a member, I'm told by the people up at the city that we can get some kind of a spot for free, but it has to be through a Fairfax City resident. So if any of you folks know anybody that actually lives within the confines of Fairfax City, maybe we can contact them and ask them to be, I'll do the legwork, but if they could be our, like, I don't know what the term is, liaison, we can get a free ride. That's just an FYI.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. And Ron, I think that's addresses your question.
Yes.
And also, Shane, again, this is Michael Bouchard. The VFW post in Arlington certainly would be open to hosting our chapter. I know we already do that for another American Legion post, let them use our facilities for their meetings. So I can help with that if that comes up or is needed.
That's awesome. Thank you, Michael. We since we cover Fairfax and Arlington, we are kind of looking at finding a way to branch out into both areas, and maybe we rotate each month from Arlington to Fairfax. That way we can hit more members back and forth. But the use of this technology we're using this morning has greatly enhanced our ability to get more people in as well. So
yeah, definitely. So if that's needed, I'll definitely help accommodate and get that sorted out if needed.
that's awesome. So Gary, I think you were looking for an inside man in Fairfax. We just found one in Arlington. So that is awesome.
So we got something.
John Berger. John, did you have anything that you wanted to bring up or talk about? Any questions? You're good. And we'll go to our guests joining us this morning. Cynthia Bailey, the Department Senior Vice Commander. Cynthia, anything additional you want to make sure everybody's aware of, or any questions you may have?
No, I'm good, Shane. You all covered everything, and like I said, I'm just happy to be able to be with you all this morning. So I'm good.
And as I said, Randy Reese is with us. He is the Executive Director of our national headquarters in DC, but most importantly, he's a member of Chapter 10. You noticing a theme, Chapter 10, leading the way? Anybody else? Is that just me? Randy, did you have anything else you wanted to provide?
Well, I have been a member there for 26 years. So although I've moved across the United States and back a couple times, always been a member of Chapter 10, very first chapter that I joined. So proud to see everybody out today. And you probably mentioned this in previous meetings and excursions, but we do an award for outstanding advocacy every year. And the outstanding performance in advocacy 2 times in a row has gone to the Department of Virginia, Bob Cox, and to Chapter 10, Tom Wendell. We appreciate all the advocacy that you do, aside from your day jobs. So appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Randy.
And for those of you who have not seen the video of accepting the Outstanding Advocacy Award, Performance and Advocacy Award that Tom received this year, I will make sure I include that video in a link to that video in the After Action newsletter so everybody can see it. And just make sure you send him an email, make fun of him for something from the video. There's nothing to make fun of. I'm just saying, I'm sure you can find something if you look hard enough.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Shane.
That's why I'm here, Tom. And all I can say is this is what happens when you appoint me as the adjutant. You could appoint somebody else, so it's kind of on you at this point. So with that being said, just follow up with John Hoffman, our Reverend. He just put in the chat box. He is available, and he included his cell phone number. So if you need to reach out to Comrade Chaplain Hoffman, his number is 703-508-0200. And again, I'll make sure that information is included in the after action as well, so that if you do need assistance, you can reach out. So we're at that time to call this thing a meeting, and we're going to close it out with comments and final thoughts from Commander Wendell.
Well, thank you very much, Shane. And once again, thanks for putting on an excellent presentation today. And we greatly appreciate everyone that joined us today. We appreciate the participation and the questions. And we hope that in the future, we can get together in person and meet. And thinking about April, you know, we know that even if we go ahead and we do have a in-person meeting, we know that many of you may not be ready for that. So we're going to do our best to be able to present it in this forum, but I can't promise you that. If we're outdoors, we're working on some technical issues with that, but we shall see what we can do. But if we do meet outside, you know, hopefully we can have some of you join us, and we will see what happens here in the near future. But we definitely look forward to seeing you. I ask that you all continue to be safe out there, and we're here for you. Be here tomorrow night at 7. Join us on the Commander's Chat and Talk. And that's all I got, Shane.
Thank you very much, Commander Wendell, and thank everybody for joining us. And as he noted, we'll be sending out a reminder notice and a link to join us tomorrow night. That'll go out tomorrow morning for the Commander's video check-in and chat tomorrow night at 7. And some of the topics we've talked about, pretty intriguing. We talked about your favorite cartoon character. I mean, who doesn't want to talk about that? Your favorite movies, your favorite books. And coming up for tomorrow night, I don't think we've picked a topic yet, but there's a few ideas I have, like everybody talk about their high school mascot. That'd be fun, right? Because everybody's going to have something a little different and a little crazy. You can talk about your favorite movie, your favorite James Bond movie, your favorite James Bond actor. We got topics galore that we can talk about. Your favorite superhero. Everybody has a favorite superhero. Whether you read comics, even though you're close to 50 years old, everybody has a favorite superhero. So we're going to be doing more of that on our Sunday evening chats. And again, thank you all so much for joining Chapter 10. And Tom, thank you again for providing this information, this forum, and the Sunday night chats, all great ideas. And thanks everybody for joining, and hopefully we'll see you all very, very soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.